There's no problem too big or small, no issue too hot or cold, and no subject these gentlemen won't talk about. Let's head into the lab to see what they're working to figure out today.
January 1st. So
what, you basically kind of built
let's
up...
get you a different chair, because that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I noticed. Yes.
Well, that's fun to watch.
But we'll put it all back in a minute. You ready to go?
I'm good. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get into it and get down to it. Welcome to Figure It Out. This is George Grumbacher. Joining me always is Centauri Minor. Good
Hello,
day, sir.
folks. How are you guys?
Well, this is certainly the toughest and best mustached Figured It Out yet. Is it mustachioed? Is it mustache?
Yeah, mustache. I like mustache with an E.
So, joining us today, helping us move from awareness to action, is Brendan Tierney. Brendan has been a champion mixed martial artist and current haver of Awesome Mustache. So, thanks for coming, Brendan.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And just to circle back on a conversation, you said you've been growing that mustache since 2009?
Yes, that's when I started my mustache trip or journey. Yep, and it's taken a while to find.
Is there like a group of folks that do this, that like get together and talk mustaches?
No, and there really should be.
You need
this
to
is
create
difficult.
Yeah, you need to create that.
This is a difficult thing. Like growing a mustache, number one of the things I appreciate about mustaches is it takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes patience.
Okay.
You know, all kinds of wonderful character traits that you can really appreciate. In a person. And to me, it's tricky. Some things don't work. You got to figure it out. Then you make mistakes, and then you got to figure out how to recover it. It's tricky.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the name of the show, Brandon.
Yeah,
Is Figure It Out.
it's
so
life.
here we are. Right. It is absolutely live.
Yeah.
So
Mustache is life.
Mustache is like fighting his life.
Yeah.
Anytime you probably commit yourself to it, to doing something.
Well, so one of the things, and I mentioned it in in the info that I sent you. One of the things I really do believe is if you know one thing, you can apply the things that you know in that one thing to almost everything else that you know. I mean, there's a certain nature of everything, you know. And it's relationships, really. It's your relationship with you, or it's with you, with myself, with the people around me, the world around me, the clothes I wear, everything I do. So whether it's a mustache or if it's learning how to fight, or if it's learning how to, organize your life in a certain way, it all is relative and it all is connected, and that to me is one of the things that I think is a mystery to most people. And not that I have the answer to life, but I think that's a big piece of it,
And how did you come to this? Because I know you've served in our military, which we're certainly grateful for. You've been fighting for 15 plus years.
I've been training for 15 years.
For 15 years.
My first fight, I believe, was in 2006 or 7.
So did you have a moment of clarity, or?
Well, I didn't have a very easy life. I didn't have a lot of, not that it was hard, not that it was the hardest life ever, but I didn't have a lot of direction. I didn't have anybody really, opening my eyes up to my values or to the qualities that I had, or helping me to recognize what I can and what I can't do. And as I've stumbled through my life, I've had to figure out certain things, that some things work and some things don't. And what I try to do is I try to create consistencies from one thing to the other. And if I can find some consistent line on one thing, I try to look at how that may apply to something else. And I mean, it's really basic and simple logic, and it just kind of came to me. And one of the books that I am in love with, and I got an audio version of it. It's called The Book of Five Rings. And
5 rings?
5 rings, yeah. And it's based off of a samurai's life and how he functions through his life. But what it does is it references a lot of these types of challenges that we all run into. And it's not a martial art type of thing. It is a life type of thing. And like I said, just like all things. I think all things are a life type of thing, or a martial arts type of thing, or a mustache type of thing. You know what I mean? It's all so consistent.
Mm-hmm. I think that if you don't approach everything like that, you are, in essence, going through the motions and wasting.
And you don't know what you've done. You don't know what you've accomplished. You don't know the mistakes that you've made. You can't correct those mistakes. It's self-reflection. You have to be able to look at what you've done right and look at what you've done wrong and look at what you can do better. You know, I don't rest on the things that I do really well. I continue to try to improve them, but I try to look at the values that I do well and try to transfer those things into the things that I don't do well, and I try to improve those things.
How often do you kind of take a step back and check in with yourself to kind of reflect on those things?
I kind of do it every day. I train people. I teach people how to fight. I teach people how to keep their fitness and their health. I help people with their diets. All those things are connected, so when I'm speaking to somebody about throwing a punch, I have to connect with something that they understand. I have to, if you played hockey, and you've never thrown a punch before, I have to find a way to connect what you know to what I'm trying to show you.
Okay.
And when I can do that, now we get into these conversations about whatever, you know what I mean? Like, one of the things, especially with my young guys, if you're pushing so hard, like if you're trying to hit the bag so hard, you're throwing away your technique for the effort of hitting something. When you just kind of relax and you just go through the motion and allow your body to deliver what you're trying to deliver, all of a sudden things come really easily. When you're not so blinded by the thing that you think you see and just trying to do what you were supposed to do. And I relate it to women, okay? When you're chasing a woman down in a relationship and you're just calling her and bugging her and asking her out on dates, they're like, God, leave me alone, And then as soon as you just calm yourself, reflect back on yourself, start investing in yourself, start building yourself into the person that you want to be, not just women, but everybody that you surround yourself with, they see the interest that you take in building yourself, and they're interested in you all of a sudden. Maybe not in a romantic way, but regardless, that connection begins somewhere. It's a beginning of a momentum type of thing.
That's the truth in any kind of relationship, for sure, whether it's romantic in nature or it's professional. If you were pursuing me to be my trainer and you wouldn't leave me alone, it would be the same thing. It'd be like, man, Brendan, you need to give me some space, man.
100%.
Well, certainly, I have an athletic background, and I know that athletics taught me so many different things. But the things you're talking about, self-assessment, relating it directly to fighting, which is the purest form of an individual sport.
And accountability. Can't blame it on anybody else. It is your success and your failure. And now, if you've failed in your techniques, you've failed to learn those things properly, again, you have to assess that. You have to be self-reflective and understand where you've made those mistakes. If you've invested your time and your energy into something that is not paying back, you're in finance. It's the same thing. You see what I mean? You redirect. You try to find what that problem is. Should I continue to work through this problem, or should I pull off and reinvest in something else?
So you've worked and engaged with a lot of fighters. What is something that you consistently see that makes someone successful? So you can pinpoint this in everyone that does well. What is it?
Patience.
Patience.
Patience, more than anything. One of the fighters that is a very commonly referenced as the greatest of all time type fighters, not so much anymore because of Anderson Silva, he has built that, but it used to be Fedor Emelianenko. And Fedor Emelianenko, one of the qualities that he has is he shows no emotion. There is no excitement. There is no discomfort. There's no. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So when he hits somebody hard, he doesn't go getting excited and jump in and throw all the values that got him to where he's going. He patiently enters and continues to do what got him to where he got. And that's, again, right back to everything else we're talking about. It's life. So if we can, so that would be my reference point, is that they stay true to what they believe and they don't falter for anybody else.
So Fedor Emelianenko, he's Russian, and I think Russians are pretty serious folks. I don't know if that was an appropriate thing to say or not.
No, I mean, I have respect for that. I mean,
for
to
sure.
me, dedication is one of the most valuable things you could have as a person.
He's a stoic kind of a person, and I'm familiar with him. I don't know much about his early career. Was he always patient? Do you think that was something that he grew into? I'm not sure.
Well, and again, I'm not a, this is an odd thing to say. I was reflecting on this actually recently. I've never had heroes. I've never had people that I have modeled my life after, so to speak. I've taken pieces of things that I find value in, but I've never learned everything I could about one person to become very much like that person. So I know superficial things. I make assessments from what I see, and sometimes I'm wrong and sometimes I'm right. But to me, that's one of those things that really stands out. And again, I got beat up by my jiu-jitsu coach yesterday, and one of the things, I kept doing the same thing. I kept trying to be successful doing the exact same thing, and he's like laying there laughing at me.
Like, quit it.
Yeah, he's like
you know better than this.
Oh, right, exactly. Like I felt so. I felt like I genuinely disappointed him. Like he expected more out of me, and I failed.
Wow.
So that's a hard thing. But again, that gives me more time to reflect on myself and what I am not investing in and not growing in. Anyway, I kept trying to pass his guard, and I kept doing it the same way. And he's just laying there. He goes, "Brendan, what are you doing?" He goes, "This is not going to work out." He goes, "Why don't you do this and do this and do this?" And he builds me. He says, "You have strong legs. Use your strong legs. Use the things that you have in order to become successful at what you're trying to accomplish." And and if something doesn't work, try another thing. It's not gonna. You're either not going anywhere or you're progressing. You may progress in the wrong direction, but at least you have another option. Now you have to do something different there.
Patience.
Yes.
Man, that's...
And awareness.
And awareness.
Yes.
Those are tricky things. One of my favorite parables is the parable of the old bull and the young bull. You familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm.
They're on top of the hill, and the young bull says, "Let's go down and meet one of those cows." And the old bull says, "No, let's walk down and meet them all."
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. And that's obviously the parable is old and young, and that you gain that wisdom to be patient as you get a little bit older.
Subtle.
So hard. So when you talk about, so you're patient through your training as well, not just patient during the fight, looking for your spots, but.
So and again, this is an obstacle that I face often.
Sure.
When training someone, most people think they think of fighting as very physical. Okay, it's a physical thing. You're trying to physically impose your will on another person. But in order to do that, if you don't understand how to begin that, to get to that starting point, you have to have balance, you have to have stability, you have to be able to move your body in order to get to the right place to be able to do that. So you can't just be physical. Tennis, I could go out there and
Sure.
go crazy swinging the racket around, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get it to go where I want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's information that I need to have, and that takes patience. It takes patience to have that racket at the right angle in order to get it to the right place. It's all the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The hip rotation. It's very. These are all connected things. And yeah.
It's so hard. You hear stories about. I really love basketball, but you hear about when basketball players report to camp in high school, and the coach makes them for 2 weeks do drills without the ball. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, this sucks. I want to just shoot.
Right.
But you need the footwork and the fundamentals and understand the spacing on the court.
And I didn't know that. I love that. I didn't know that.
Without question. So
I didn't know that about basketball. So again, another relationship to that.
Mm-hmm.
If I had if I could make this work for everyone and every student that I ever had, and I could count on them being patient enough to understand what was required in order to get to the point that they need to be at in order to be successful, I would never have them throw a punch for probably 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It would be about footwork. It would be about the rise and fall and using gravity and shifting your weight forward and backward and learning how to move your head and how to move your feet hidden behind all those movements. So that takes understanding. So if you're not patient in learning, you can't be patient in your activation of what you learn. So
sticking to the theme of patience, how has that resonated or kind of bled into other parts of your life outside of the ring?
Let's see. I will admit a huge character flaw of mine, but I think it's not an uncommon thing. I think it's something that very many people have, and they may not notice it or not recognize it, but I am very hard on myself, and I don't give myself equal credit for the things that I've done well versus the things that I've done poorly. And when I'm confronted with that, I have to guide myself back down to keeping things even and fair, because it's not fair if I'm weighing things. I made a mistake over here. Oh, but I did this so good. It's okay. I can manage that. I would like to not make that mistake, so I'll look for a way to avoid that. And again, it goes back to that self-reflection. And I got off track on that.
So for our listeners who are also in that same camp of being too hard on themselves and not really weighing and being fair, what advice would you give them to kind of get them right on balance?
Try to focus on the things that you do well, accept the things that you do wrong, and work toward trying to improve those things. These are all basic, simple things. If I trip every time I walk through the door, what do I have to do to not trip? Pick your foot up,
Right.
Just a little bit higher. It could be the difference in living or dying. I mean, you could trip out the door and into traffic and get run over. I mean, so, but back to that self-deprecating topic, I have worked very hard to not allow what I think someone else may be thinking of me to dictate how I deal with them. So if I saw you and we met and we were very friendly the first time, and I saw you again and you didn't even look my way, I waved at you, you didn't say hi, I can't think, oh man, he just doesn't like me, I must have done something wrong and he's offended, he doesn't like my shirt, whatever it is, I can't do that to myself. That's totally unfair. I'm taking responsibility for what you are thinking in your mind without me ever having any ability to really do that. That's not fair to myself, and it's not fair to you.
Right.
And it will damage my ability to have a relationship with you in the future, and it damages the relationship that I have with myself. So if I can't get past that, I'm going to run into so many boundaries, so many walls that are going to stop me from moving to that next point. And again, it's back to relationships, and back to patience, and back to awareness, and back to understanding.
The way we talk to ourselves, it's so important, because there is a balance there. It's extremely important to be introspective and to be real with yourself and say, you know what, I need to really improve in this area, versus, oh, you're so stupid, you're an idiot, because that's not constructive in the least bit.
Not at all. And it's a very common thing. Like I have to very often tell my students not to be critical of themselves. Your job is not to be critical. Your job is to do what you're trying to do. My job is to help you see where you are making flaws and where you can improve. I don't want you abusing yourself. The world around you is here to abuse you. Try to find a way to take care of yourself and build yourself, rather than adding to the bombardment of negativity that is flowing in all around us.
Right? All around us, all the time.
Everywhere. And that's a whole nother conversation. Our
Sure.
culture is very, very off in that.
So with my background is as a tennis player, which is completely less masculine than as a fighter.
And I disagree 100%.
I'm
just saying, like,
making a joke, but it's 100% a game of emergencies, where you're getting a different situation is being thrown at you at every turn. I have a little bit more time as a tennis player to after the point is over to respond, versus as a fighter, you have 3 rounds or 5 rounds at 5 minutes where you're having to respond to emergency and regroup fluidly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are beating yourself up
Doesn't
during,
Impossible.
Never gonna work.
you're
Yeah.
physically going to become hugely
Well,
damaged.
And then you beat yourself. You tell yourself what you can't do and you accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you begin to accept the things that you don't even know whether they're real or not, they are all of a sudden real. And you have a very big obstacle in overcoming them. Our perception of what's going on around us is what makes problems or solutions. So if you come to me with a big problem and I go, oh God, oh God, oh God, how are we going to do this? Oh God, oh God, oh God. And I'm just getting crazy about how bad it is, I will never get to the point of actually assessing what the real problem is and trying to find some type of a solution for it. We're just crying. Crying is something that's necessary sometimes. But
Yeah.
if you're not being productive in some fashion, then it's a waste.
It's one of my favorite things, say that you can't cry over spilled milk. You can, but the milk's already spilled, so
Right.
let's just clean
Hey,
it up.
Cry and clean it up at the same time.
Maybe pour another glass.
Right. Yeah.
That for me is probably one of the greatest lessons that athletics taught me is, you know what, this bad thing just happened. Now it's time to regroup and move on to the next point in my example. So
And how many people do you know that beat themselves down about what they've done wrong and what they can't do? Why can't you do it? Why can't you find a way? Okay, I'm 41 years old. Okay,
you look great.
Thank you. In March, my last fight, I took outside of my weight class, which was a mistake. I took it against a guy that I knew was not going to make weight, had not made weight in like 3 or 4 fights. So I'm fighting outside
Probably
of
on
my weight
the
class.
bigger end.
Yeah. So I fight at 170,
Okay.
and I would cut normally from 190 down to 170 and make weight, and then be probably right around 185 or so by the time we fight.
Right.
That's a whole nother conversation. But for the most part, I come in on weight. That's my job. My job is to meet this requirement, and then I meet the next requirement where I show up and fight. And I took this fight knowing that he wasn't going to make weight. I talked to the promoter over and over. What's going to happen when he doesn't make weight? What's going to happen when he doesn't make weight? What's going to happen when he doesn't make weight? And I'm frustrated about this. And in my mind, I'm going, I'm not taking this fight. If he doesn't make weight, I'm not taking this fight. And then you get there, and you're like, and he's 8 pounds over. And now, I weighed in at 183. He weighed in at, what is that, 191 or 192, somewhere in there. And by the time we fought, and he probably cut hard. By the time we fought, he was probably 210, 215. Easily.
Wow.
Easily. Easily. And I was still at my weight because that's outside of my weight class.
Whoa.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now I'm fighting 2 weight classes outside of, close to 3 technically. And I tore my hamstring off my pelvis. And
How do they allow the fight to go on if you guys are just so?
Well, Brendan
I
allowed the
accept
fight
it.
to go on.
Yes,
Yes.
I accept it. That was my fault.
So you just
I am responsible for my choices, you know, and I can sit here and go, I shouldn't have done that. I've taken many short notice fights. I've taken many fights where the guy was off weight, but I was confident in what I could do. I believed that regardless of his weight, I was still going to hit him, and I was still going to hurt him.
Right.
But I'm now recognizing a couple of things. You know what I mean? So no sense in stacking the cards against me. I should have been a little bit smarter in that decision and been more patient.
Right. So I want to just pivot just a little bit. Always impressed with our veterans and folks that have been in the military. Can you talk a little bit about what was your most rewarding experience and what you ultimately learned from your, was it 6 years?
8 years.
8 years. 8 years. Yeah.
Rescue swimmer school. I was again. I joined the Navy because I was a little lost and I didn't have much direction, as I said earlier.
How old?
I was 19.
Oh wow.
And
You grew up where?
I grew up in Queens in upstate New York. When I was having problems. I was lost. You know, I didn't know what my value was. I didn't know what I was capable of. I was easily influenced by the wrong people. I had, and I believe that most people of my generation had a very, very negative education on what a man was. Men were violent, men were angry, men were, intimidating, they were hard, they were cold, they were not loving, caring, affectionate, supportive people. Excuse me. And I was not what a man would be. I was loving and caring and thoughtful and wanted to be caring and all those things. So I attempted to adjust what I was to fulfill that role. And I cost myself a lot, and it cost me some very, very difficult things in my life. And joining the Navy was one of those things that I thought could help me find my way. And to some degree it did, because when I joined the Navy in rescue swimmer school, in boot camp, I started recognizing these SEALs. Like, these guys are coming in and they're doing a swim program. Everybody failed the swim, and I think there was maybe 3 of us that actually passed the swim, and it wasn't difficult. Like, it was the little qualification that they gave us. It wasn't difficult to me, but I was never an athlete, So anyway, I struggled with trying to develop my athleticism in that, and came up short quite a few times. But because I kept coming up short, I kept working and kept trying to improve little things that I could. I asked everybody that I had access to help me find the direction that I was trying to go, and they did. And I was invited to take a test for rescue swimmer school. We had just commissioned our ship, and we were short a swimmer on the boat, and we needed at least, I believe, at least one, and we were missing the other swimmer at that point. So they were in a pinch, and we were underway at the end of that school, and they asked for volunteers. I said, I'll take it, I'll go. I've been begging you guys to send me for a while. They told me on a Friday. I showed up on Monday, and I passed. I passed the in-test, and then I went through the training, and again, shocking myself over and over and over again. Just about really just going through and doing what I was being asked to do, rather than trying to interpret what was acceptable and what was not, what I was doing well and what I was not doing well. It had to do with just fulfilling those obligations. And as I fulfilled each obligation, I moved on to the next obligation and moved on to it. So it was a lesson in success that I had never really experienced before. And when I graduated that class, we started with 32 or 34 people. We graduated 6 people. And again, I was not an athlete. To my understanding, I didn't recognize what I was and what I was capable of. And that was by far the biggest eye-opener for me, and beginning of recognizing my values, and my value and what I could be. So it was, the Navy did help me quite a bit.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. A little bit of discipline mixed in there.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Well,
And patience.
And
When you were stuck
Hurry up
for
and wait.
4 years, and then I re-enlisted again, but you're stuck. You're on their time. You're not on your time anymore. You're doing what they're asking you to do. You don't have any, direction that you are controlling. You can request, but it's up to them to allow you to do those things.
Got it. It seems to me right now that we are in a really interesting place in time, where we are in the United States, in the most richest, prosperous nation that's ever been. But you have people that feel like they're disenfranchised. You have people that feel like they're being persecuted, and they very well may be. My take on it is that how you look at something makes all the difference in the world. Now, maybe I'm in a position I'm able to have that perspective, but coming from where you've been throughout your entire life, how important do you think perspective is on things?
It's everything. I mean, it is legitimately everything. Like, this is right here. Without me moving my head, I can't see that over there. So that doesn't exist to me.
Right.
So my perspective on this is everything, in recognizing that there is something there.
He's talking about the microphone.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. So if there's something in front of my face, and I don't move my face to see what may be behind that, I'll never know what's behind it. That is that's perspective. That
Right.
is everything that every that's how you determine what is successful. okay? I could fail miserably, but if I did something that I had never done before in that failure, I have to accept that there was some success in that. There is some value in that. There is some reason that I failed in order to show me that I could do this thing and I need more work on this thing. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no failing in that.
Yeah.
You know, and that has to do with your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is perspective. You know, so yes, I agree with 100%.
One of the things that I really think is so cool about fighting is that anybody can do it, and oftentimes boxers are from lower socioeconomic levels,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way out is fighting. And so there have been great fighters from every different background that's ever been. Another thing that I think is so cool about fighting is that you can come down to the last 10 seconds of a fight and have lost every second up until then and still win and still knock the other person out. And the whole notion of it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, very real.
And you might be way better than me on paper, but when we step into the ring or the octagon or whatever, we got to find out, man.
Well, and one of the, and you know, they say that a fight is not won in the ring, it is won before. Okay, like abs aren't made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen. Okay, and that's the same game that we're looking at here. So one of the flaws that I have had in my fighting career is I've taken every fight off for the most part. Anytime I have an opportunity to fight, I'm taking it.
Let's go.
I want to fight.
You're
I love to fight.
You're like Conor McGregor.
I love I love to fight, and I would do it for free. To be honest with you, it's not about money. It is about that discovery. It is about that ability to have a very defined episode that allows me to reflect on and see the things that I did right, see the things that I did wrong, see where I have room to improve. It's fantastic, and it is such a clear definition of who you are as a person, how you handle obstacles, how you handle failures, how you handle successes. You know, again, like I mentioned with Fedor. Okay, I would say almost every fight that I've ever seen him in, he dings somebody real hard, and he just moves in. He doesn't jump in. Okay, so again, he's taking his time to ensure that he's continuing to do what got him there. You know, I don't know. I just.
I can tell that you're passionate about it. Those aspects of it, it's very, very pure from that perspective.